What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Top 5 Scary Videos. There are many novels that horror directors will just pick up and say, yeah, I got some money, I can make this monster out of CGI, make it spooky, let's do it. And then $25 million later, it's done, that's it. But every blue moon, someone comes along and creates this new horror movie icon without the aid of any book, or most likely just Stephen King, without Stephen King. So right from their own imagination, then bam, it's a classic. So here to count down 5 of those original horror movie monsters, I'm Taylor McWatters, you're you. Let's get to it. Number 5, The Entity, It Follows. Okay, in 2014, we were treated to a new classic in the horror genre. It Follows was written and directed by David Robert Mitchell and knocked it out of the park. It was amazing. They only had a small budget of around $1 million and it managed to pull in like $20 million on its opening weekend. And part of what makes this movie so unique was its big bad monster. Now the entity in It Follows is a slow burn. Like literally, it's always slowly following you. Like a pigeon, you know, it's just constantly behind you like, what are we doing up there? So whoever has this curse, it's being followed by a dark evil entity that is invisible to everybody except you. But to what extent does this entity go? Okay, so it doesn't give up, clearly. Wow, okay, awesome. Yeah, this entity that follows you takes on the form of a human. They're rocking the all white look, you know, like the white shirt, white pants. They look like they're in a laundry commercial, it's amazing. And they can change their appearance, you know, appearance being weight, gender, size. I mean, this entity is a pretty powerful one to say the least. It's got super strength, unlimited stamina, it never needs to sleep either, which is great. Hi, can I do that? How do we do this? The scariest thing about this entity is that it doesn't stop following you, ever. Hence the title, the film title, It Follows. It walks towards you very slowly at all times. Another important fact to know about this entity is that in order to pass the curse on, you need to have sexual intercourse with someone. Awesome. I'm not joking. And yes, this movie is very serious and very scary. See, you have to have sex to pass on the curse. That sounds like the weirdest excuse to try and pick up somebody at a bar. Come on. Like, those are crazy rules. You can't just like send them a text message and then like be on with your day. It goes through as green, you're like, they're never gonna get that, who knows? The entity will always follow the most recent victim of the curse and continue working its way backwards in consecutive order, right? So only those who have had the curse can see the entity. That's the fun part. So even if you know, and then you pass it on, you can still see where it's going for the next victim. That's just awful. I feel like that's worse somehow, I don't know. Anybody see that guy over there? He's like 8 feet tall, he's going in a Dairy Queen, wearing all white? No? Alright, maybe we'll grab a cone in like 20 minutes. I don't know, I have a hunch. While most horror movie monsters make it their goal to cause agony and pain and, you know, to cut you up all slowly and whatnot, or punch your head like 1,000 times, the entity doesn't waste time. One scene that takes place on a beach, I mean, you don't even see it happen. It just cuts to the character all bent up the next day around some sandcastles. It's awful. Makes you wonder, makes you think. And I think that's the most lasting part of this monster. You kind of think about, oh, if it did come for me, I wonder how fast it would happen. Ooh. And before we continue on to number 4, guys, if you could go ahead and toss this video a thumbs up, because it really goes a long way for us here at our secret cabin in the woods. Number 4, The Tethered, Us. Okay, so after the instant classic Get Out was released in theaters in 2017, comedic and now horror master Jordan Peele gave us another huge hit just 2 years later called Us. Jordan Peele has the ability to make these masterpiece movies without using monsters. Rather, he uses people to deliver this dark message. So in Us, the monsters are the Tethered. They're an evil version of, well, us. These clones are living underground after the government tried and massively failed at a cloning project where they tried to control the American people. Weird. I wonder if they would ever do anything like that in real life. So these clones would then mimic the actions of their other half, but they were soulless. Like, they were stuck eating rabbits underground and walking around these old hallways. Like, if I was at a club having a good time with my friends, my tethered version would just be like, then the arrival of a young Adelaide Wilson, who is Lupita Nyong'o's character, she ends up getting lost in this mirror maze and then bumps into her clone at a young age. So obviously this causes some big changes over the next 30 years of her life. I won't say anything else. Watch it. The cast in this movie is amazing. They all play the heroes and villains, and it's so convincing you forget that these are just actors. They're just actors who did a line here, got changed, and then did a line over here. It's wildly impressive. Winston Duke, Lupita Nyong'o, Shahadi Wright-Joseph, Evan Alex, they're a great family with great family chemistry. They're amazing. And then they're this terrifying evil family, still with great evil chemistry within themselves. It's crazy. The tagline for the film is "We are our own worst enemy," and it's super accurate in this case. You have to be in touch with your own dark side in order to really survive in this movie. So Jordan Peele even says the inspiration for the pop culture references in the movie come from his own childhood experiences. So he grew up in an era with Michael Jackson as this huge pop star, as did mostly all of us. But then he also saw him as this thriller villain type character when he was young, and it scared him. He wasn't really sure the difference between the two. Hence why we see our young Adelaide rocking the MJ gear. Lupita's character I would pin as the main monster in this movie. I mean, her moments, her monologues, the way she walks and dances around with scissors, like, it's so hard to believe that this is the same actor playing both parts. She should have got an Oscar for this movie, like straight up. Number 3, Jason Voorhees. Okay, yeah, one of the most well-known slashers of our time. He is a goalie from the 80s, or so he appears. Over the course of many films, Jason has been played by 8 different actors now. So it's safe to say he's a pretty big deal. Making his first appearance in the first Friday the 13th film back in 1980, born in the small town of Crystal Lake. Of course, Jason Voorhees went with his mom to Crystal Lake after she had gotten hired as a cook. He's gonna go have a good time, you know? Oh good, a little +1, we'll go swimming. So the campers there weren't the nicest of people, and they figured it'd be a cool idea to bully Jason and toss him into the lake, despite him not being the strongest of swimmers. Phil Collins should have made a song about these guys. Maybe less of them would have died, I don't know. The counselors could have saved him, but they were too busy making out with each other and blasting Def Leppard, or hooking up in the woods, which is just the environment you want to be naked in. Who's got the afterbite again? They really are insane. So Jason, of course, sadly ends up drowning. Cut 2 decades later, Jason's mom, Pamela, returns to the now reopened Crystal Lake and gets her long-awaited revenge on the frisky, risky counselors. Now, the final counselor, Alice, ends up taking hold of a machete and shoom, decapitates Pamela. Goes right for the head. Thanos would be proud. And then Friday the 13th Part 2, Jason comes back from the dead. Uh-oh, spoilers, I guess. I mean, you had plenty of time. So all hell breaks loose. He finds Alice and he ends her with an ice pick. Nice. This guy's terrifying. He doesn't talk, he just walks towards you slowly. Kind of like the Entity, but with a machete and a goalie mask. And the best part / worst part about Jason is that he doesn't die. The amount of movies they've made, I mean, this dude at one point even made his way to space. I bet if they made Jason X like now, they would for sure have Jason in Elon Musk's space car, just zipping around the top off, taking people's heads off. He's immortal. He probably could do it. He looks like a human, but he's straight up a monster. Like since Friday the 13th Part 6, the filmmakers decided to make it official and give him superhuman strength and regenerative powers. This dude is nuts, like he'll use random objects in his vicinity to kill you with. Or if he has no weapons, he'll just punch your head off your body. He's that strong. Jason still remains one of the most popular horror movie slashers, and there's rumors, of course, of a new franchise firing back up in a few years. Can't get enough, can you, sickos? Number 2, Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger, the Springwood slasher, perhaps one of the most vile villains in horror movie history. Made his debut in A Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984, written and directed by the king himself, Wes Craven. Where did the motivation for creating such a horrible character come from, you ask? Well, how do you think of this? Well, according to Wes Craven, the idea came to him after reading an article in the New York Times about a family who had escaped the killing fields in Cambodia and then got to the US. And things were fine at first, but the son was having these awful nightmares. And he was afraid that if he slept, something or someone would get him. Then he ended up passing away in his sleep, which is really sad. So Wes Craven's like, that's sad. Before going head to head in Freddy vs. Jason, Freddy Krueger was the other main horror icon for most of us growing up. Being able to hurt you in your dreams, the creators went a really smart route and planted the seed in all the audience's brain. So we're constantly thinking about this dude after the credits roll and after the lights come up. The idea sits with you. One of the reasons this monster made a killing in so many sequels was the performance, of course, of Robert Englund, the actor who took Freddy and made him an instant classic. Now the premise was smart enough to last for 9 feature films. He can kill you in your sleep. His abilities allow him to chase you down and haunt your nightmares, controlling how you die in every way. He can enter your dream and then make you think you're at school in class. And then all of a sudden the supply teacher turns into like a giant bug and starts like hucking desks at you. You're like, okay, guess I'm asleep, holy Like Jason, Freddy also had a horrible origin story. He was bullied constantly growing up, being the son of a mother who worked in an insane asylum. So eventually, once he became an adult, he took revenge on the kids that did them dirty. Those kids too had also grown up having children of their own for him to go after and hunt. Freddy was then deemed the Springwood Slasher, using fish knives attached to a glove as his weapon of choice. So after killing 20 kids, you would think we're even, huh? Nope, the arrest warrant was signed in the wrong place, that plus a judge who was hammered. He didn't even end up serving time. So the pissed off parents took matters into their own hands, they oiled this place up and then burnt it down. Revenge best served hot. Real hot. And number 1, Valak, The Conjuring 2. So when The Conjuring 2 was released, fans were pleased that the anticipated sequel not only lived up to its expectations, but it had more than one monster. Now when that happens, sometimes you ruin a movie, like, I don't know, Spider-Man 3, just too much. Now one of the notable new demons in the Conjuring franchise was Valak. So where does this ghost nun come from? Who is she? Well, in the prequel, simply titled The Nun, which was released after because fans loved it so much, we see a duke in Romania that had summoned a demonic force centuries ago, and the Vatican members trapped it with the blood of Christ and sealed it off forever. Classic. That is until World War II came around and knocked the place about, freeing the demon, taking on the form of, a nun. So her abilities are pretty wild. I mean, she has these demonic powers, obviously. I mean, she can shapeshift, and she really knows how to scare the shit out of Vera Farmiga. The scenes with the nun are great because there's a nice blend of jump scares mixed with the slow, ominous walking. She likes to go back and forth, so the audience really has no idea what kind of scene to expect. Well guys, there you have it. Which of these original movie monsters are your favorites? Do you have any ideas for an original movie monster? Hit us in the comments below. With all these movies being pushed off until next year, let's just make a horror movie. Who needs them? Let's just do it ourselves. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I've been your host, Taylor McWatters, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.